There's a lot of really good things about having this show now going to video. It's really exciting. You can see us if you're watching there. And if it's just the audio later on, then you may not even notice a difference. But I mean, Tucker said he was looking at the chat and they were not surprised. Dear viewers, you were not surprised that we were running late. Hey guys, it's Only Weird Games. We'll start 5 minutes after we say we're going to.
This is KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank.
Red Beach has spoken. The Chiefs have a solidified, at least for now, 53-man roster, and the practice squad has even been fleshed out with a couple interesting additions and departures. Welcome to Only Weird Games here on KC Sports Network. I'm Joshua Brisco with Seth Keysor and Nate Taylor. Yeah, you can watch us all across KCSN. You can grab the show in audio form in the KCSN podcast feed, plus the KCSN app. There's so many ways you can watch this show now. Seth, as long as your mic and camera continue working, which it's been something to watch you get to game speed.
I have absolutely no reason whatsoever to doubt my ability to figure out this light, this camera, this mic. Okay. For those who can't see, maybe I pointed at the mic when I said camera. It's hard to say. Who's to say what I might have done? But I know ball, and I'm ready to talk ball. I've got a list of things I'm ready to talk about. Oh, here, hang on.
Is that the correct list?
Yeah, don't give it away. Also, I mean,
one of it is John Elway's win percentage before and after Terrell Davis and Mike Shanahan. It's just interesting reading.
We might get into that a little bit. What about you, Nate? Never has any technical difficulties. Taylor, how you doing?
I'm doing just fine. I think we finally got through the roster stuff, which leads me to everybody's asking when's the next check mark. You know, we're just on this video game track and it continues to just keep going. You know, like when do we get to the end of this? I'm sure everybody knows what I'm talking about. So yeah, I'll give another update, I guess. And I'm sure much like the video game, we just keep blasting through the checkpoints, you know. So I don't know. I don't know, guys. I really don't. Like that's that. Look at Seth.
Seth is in solemn, quiet prayer right now.
I don't know.
He's rubbing his face.
I don't know. You know, it's tough. You know, I spent last night. I'll do a quick plug and thank you to the Carriage Club because I spoke to some of those members last night. You know, I got to show them the all 22. So that was pretty cool. It's like, yeah, this is the film that the coaches watch. Seth, would you like to know the first clip I gave the Carriage Club that I showed them from this past season? Like the first clip.
I would love to know. I've got a few guesses in my head, but I want to.
Throw a guess. I'll throw it. Let's each take one guess, Seth.
My guess would be Jones's sack of Burrow in the AFC Championship.
Josh.
Corn dog.
It, ladies and gentlemen, was the AFC Championship, the last drive of the Cincinnati Bengals. Because, of course, and just a little background story. Yes, Seth, we know you know ball.
This can't just be for the video people, Seth. I couldn't even read what little message you were holding up to the camera earlier. I don't want to know, frankly.
I said I was here early.
But anyway, like I speak to the Carriage Club. This is my third straight year of doing it. It's usually after Cutdown Day and before the regular season starts. So by the graces of God, August 30th was the perfect date. And I knew that a lot of the members wanted to know about Chris Jones. And I just wanted to remind people, and I guess I'm telling our listeners and our viewers now, like, if you have the chance, if you have NFL Plus or if you DVR the game, like, or just, I don't know, it's on YouTube or whatever, but just watch what he does in a 2-play span. And I showed it from the end zone camera of the all 22 to the Carriage Club members last night. He devours a double team on second down and yet is still the closest defender to Joe Burrow.
Yep.
For an incompletion.
Yep.
Then we get to third down, and I love that one of the members, this nice lady said, Well, I thought positional value meant that the edge rushers are the more valuable player at the position. And I say, correct, ma'am. Where's 95 on this screen?
Yes.
Where is he? Oh, he switched places with Carlos Dunlap.
Yep.
He is now playing the edge. He has found the one matchup he has wanted on a critical third down, which is the backup right tackle for the Cincinnati Bengals. And I play the clip, guys. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. There he is. Joe Burrow has less than 3 seconds to decide where to throw the football.
Mm-hmm.
And because of the way the coverage was set up, which was, I guess, correctly called by Steve Spagnuolo, there's not a clear open receiver in 2 seconds. So guess what? He devours you.
Yep.
And so I just wanted to remind people that's why he wants $30 million. Just so everybody knows, that's why he wants $30 million. I don't know if he'll get $30 million. I don't know if the Chiefs will agree to such a deal. But that was my opener to explain to the Cares Club that's why Chris Jones isn't with the team right now. He's on the team, but he's not with them. This is why he's holding out, because there's only one person on the team who can do what I just showed you in 2 clips to go to the Super Bowl or to help you go to the Super Bowl, and that's that guy. And then the next question, somebody was like, "So when's he coming back?" And I said, "Maybe Sunday. I don't know."
This is so stressful. If I can expand on that for a second, because something that a lot of people will talk about, like if you give individual anecdotal evidence for a player, then what someone will inevitably do is give individual anecdotal evidence back. Like, well, what about all those games he didn't have a sack in the playoffs or something like that? The big thing with Jones, and I wrote about this twice last year before the playoffs, where I talked about how he was closing out games. The thing with Jones is he has the ability, and this happens usually once a game, maybe twice, it just depends, to literally end drives. And that, as a defensive player, is the most valuable talent you can possibly have. It's close to a turnover. It's like a turnover with an arm punt. It's like if you had the ability, if you had a guy that you were able to say, this guy is as close to a guarantee as it gets in the NFL to a guaranteed interception per game, but the interception is like 40 yards back because, a punt, right? Mm-hmm. That's what Chris Jones does. If you think of turnovers, because that is, you are turning the ball over when you punt it. And he does that every single game. That's why guys like him, Nick Bosa, Aaron Donald, these guys are rare because they're not just really good pass rushers. They are a different level to where in certain situations, no matter what the scheme is, no matter where the protection is sliding and that kind of stuff, they can still affect the play dramatically. And when you talk about like protection sliding one way or another and stuff, that matters a great deal as well, because what that means, like last year, Mike Dana, who every year has gotten better, I'm excited to see him. He had some one-on-ones. And he's a good rusher from the inside, and you get that because the center is always sliding to Jones. On the very rare occasions they don't do it, like there's one, if you take from like one of my favorite plays of Jones of all time, he was one-on-one on a third down against Zach Martin, because Zach Martin is one of the best guards in the history of the NFL. And Jones just swallowed him up. Now Zach put up a fight, man. Like it was so cool watching the hand displacement, and he just couldn't do it. And it's just the highest quality. Teams build around, well, we've got an elite guard, so we can leave him one-on-one. But you can't do that with Jones. So just to expand on that point, it's not just about that one snap. It's about what that snap represents. It's kind of like anytime I do a film review, I will show a play. That play isn't proof. That play is demonstrative of what's consistently on film. And he's the one guy who can do that. And I just want to see him and Charles Omenihu next to each other so bad, because they're both so good at rushing from the inside.
Yes, I said Thanksgiving, Seth. What do I have to do?
I hate waiting for stuff by Thanksgiving. It's going to be -20 degrees outside here.
Yeah. You think Steve Spagnuolo's going to show that before Thanksgiving? Are you out of your mind?
Yeah, he didn't even show Omenihu rushing from the inside till the third preseason game. And then Omenihu, he moves him inside, and it's like, pressure, sack, pressure. The poor guy's like this backup left guard. It's like, this dude was not here for this. Like,
Did that dude get cut? Do we know?
average-
We should figure out if that guy got, if Charles Minahu ended that dude's stay.
Ugh.
I don't. It's a great question. The one thing I would say too, on top of Zach Martin getting a restructured contract because he is very good for the Dallas Cowboys, is here's my one thing, Chiefs fans. Start praying for Nick Bosa's bank account. The San Francisco 49ers need Nick Bosa just as much as the Chiefs need Chris Jones. To help solidify the market, to help get a clearer picture. And as I said in the last episode, and I mean, Schefter's put this out. I mean, it's known league-wide. Nick Bosa gonna get all the money. Just so much money. But the thing is that, like, with Aaron Donald being at the top of the defensive tackle market, we need to find out where Nick Bosa will go, and that could actually help the Chiefs and Chris Jones's representation understand this is what a premier pass rusher gets.
Yep.
Chris Jones, argumentatively, is a high-quality elite pass rusher coming from an interior position. And, of course, Aaron Donald got paid more similar to edge rushers, not the position that he normally plays from. And so if Nick Bosa gets a deal by tomorrow or Saturday/Sunday, that actually may help the Chiefs because it's just another touch point in what the market is and how Chris is sort of not just himself versus all the other defensive tackles, but him versus all the premier rushers in interior and from the edge.
So is there anything to glean, Nate, specifically on the Chris Jones front from what Brett Veach said yesterday? He had his first press conference in a minute. Nate is shaking his head just to go ahead and give us a little preview. Let me ask this question differently, Nate. What did Brett Veach say yesterday, and why does it not move the needle for you?
It doesn't move the needle for me because I don't think either side's position has changed. And I thought Brett Veach did a fine job of just saying, well, we've talked. There's that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Has a deal been finalized? Has it been agreed upon? I haven't heard any side like necessarily giving in or compromising to an effect, but what Brett Veach could do to at least calm some Chiefs fans' fears is that, like, hey, we talked. It's pretty clear as of right now, Chris will still do his thing on Instagram. Shout out to him. It's been a great saga. I watched this man and his child today, and I was like, yep, this is why I'm employed by The Athletic to know what this man is putting on Instagram stories and TikTok and other things of that nature. But
did you play the 3-tech, do we think? Is there any chance now or soon, maybe futures deal kind of thing?
I don't know. I just enjoyed that. Like, I hit the button and was like, Chef.
I do it every time. New Chris Jones Instagram story. I wonder what this is going to teach us. And then it's either useless or cryptic, or it has Michael Bay in it.
Yeah, and it's been a great saga, honestly. Like, I know fans are displeased by this, but you gotta admit, like, Eric Berry never did anything like this. Justin Houston never did anything like this. Kelsey has never even, like, gotten close to not being on the practice field, let alone the potential of missing games. It's a good saga. It's a really good saga. I know it's over long. It's overdue, I guess. You're like, I thought this movie should be 2 hours. It's now trending on 3.5. I thought I came here to watch a ship sink. What? Hey, where's the ship gonna sink at some point, right? I mean, where's that iceberg? Where is it? I will never forget the first time I saw that movie, and I said, they done lied to us. Either they done lied to us or my history teachers lied to me, because where is this iceberg? When is it going to pop off? I thought the CGI was going to be incredible. I haven't seen anything. So I know that's where we are, guys. The
Titanic, overrated. This is a safe space for that, right? Overrated?
Kind of overrated and underrated, because anytime it's on the TV guide, I'm like,
Man, that does not do that for me at all.
There's 2 movies that my wife says, nope. I don't care if they play in the game. I don't care if it's important. Selena in Titanic. Holly's like, everything must stop. Everything must stop. Drop it. I gotta see it. It could be any scene in the movie, and she will watch it. But that's how the Chris Jones things feels like. Maybe Brett Veach said we talked, and therefore there's no iceberg. We're just shit really isn't going anywhere, I guess. Every
now and then judges will ask opposing counsel if they've talked, like about, resolving a case and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And every now and then opposing counsel has to be like, yeah, Your Honor, we've talked. And what that talk consisted of was them sending an email saying, what about this, you jerk? And me sending an email back, why don't you kick rocks? Your client's guilty as sin. Leave me alone. Is it technically true that we talked?
Sounds like you talked.
Yes, that's true.
Yes.
Did it go anywhere? You've robbed me of hope, which is super fun. And one thing with the Bosa thing, a couple of people pointed out in the comments, and they are right about this, that it is important that Bosa's a lot younger than Jones. This whole thing, of course. Yes. I already ranted on it last week.
Bosa's going to get more money than Chris Jones. I know that. It's just.
And the Katz brothers are going to say, yeah, we'll just take the smack dab middle between Nick Bosa and Aaron Donald. Just right in the middle there, and we're all going to get happy.
Well, and that's the whole thing. I think I already kind of went off about this last week in terms of why it doesn't make sense to me for him to miss one game to really try to force that final hand. After that, unless he's getting pretty bad fiscal advice or if it's about something beyond fiscal gain, then I could see him doing it for those 2 reasons. Fortunately, we don't know either of those things, so that's great. I actually, in the intro, in the article I'm writing right now, it's like, let's talk about the Chiefs, the non-Chris Jones edition, because it's just bummed me out so much.
Look, man, if it makes you feel any better, you're going to have years and years and years to write about the Chiefs without Chris Jones.
It
starts.
Why do I talk to you? I don't understand how I've surrounded myself with people. You're like a Roman 7 friend. And I hate that I love you.
Time for us to take a quick break here on Only Weird Games. We'll be right back right after this.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network. Make sure you download our new app. Find it on the App Store or Google Play. Just search KC Sports Network.
Let's talk about the other stuff that happened. Oh, go ahead, Seth. No, I'm being a bad enough friend for you to have to continue this break.
No, you're a terrific friend. You are. Let's talk about other stuff.
Yeah, if we could just meet somewhere in the middle there and just sort of, just lie a little. I can be an okay friend. It's fine. I can be a replacement level friend. If I make the roster, I'm good. I might be a practice squad friend. But one of the additions that happened after we recorded the inaugural edition of Only Weird Games, which, by the way, quick aside, thank you everybody who has been so hyped for what this show has been. Just episode 1, seeing the charts and everything. Since then, watching the KCSN Chiefs feed rocketing up. Has been awesome. So thanks to everybody who's tuning in now or tune in for that episode, or hopefully we'll tune in for many more. But the Chiefs make one move and have 2 hits essentially on the waiver wire after all of the waiver claims were all processed. They lose Khalif Halasi. He goes to the Cleveland Browns. Had a great preseason. Was going to be a numbers crunch on some level, it felt like, for the Chiefs. But then interestingly enough, Halasi out. In comes 2023, not me misspeaking, this last season, 2023, or this April, 2023 draft pick from the 5th round, pick 138 overall. The Chiefs claim former Colts cornerback Darius Rush, again, former Colts for all of training camp, but they end up letting him go. They had a lot of corners on the roster. They drafted a lot of corners in this last draft class. Julius Brents, 2nd rounder out of K-State, local guy, one of those earlier on. But they let Darius Rush go, and the Chiefs swoop in and, by the measurables, grab an outrageously spagsy corner. And he fits into this group really well by my eyes, Nate. What did you learn from Brett Veach when he talked about him yesterday? And what did you think when the move came down?
I thought it was pretty shrewd, honestly, just because based on everything you hear in Indy, he didn't get up to speed just because of some nagging injuries, right? And based on their own roster numbers, they feel pretty set at corner. So in one way, you feel like Chris Ballard already lost value on a draft pick he made, as you mentioned, this April. But if the player's healthy and you feel like the player might be able to get in with the system and maybe be, a possible roster elevation candidate by, say, October, in case you have an injury or two, then yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I think the Chiefs are so confident in their evaluation of cornerbacks that if you let one slip through the cracks, they feel confident enough that we're not just kicking the tires on it necessarily. We're going to actually groom that player. We're actually going to give that player maybe a year or two to really find out who they are and how they fit our system. And not only does the player just, as you mentioned, he just screams Steve Spagnuolo, Dave Merritt.
200 basically, right? I mean, just right there with those other guys.
I mean, somebody called Sam Madison with the Dolphins and be like, did you see that on the transaction report? And
how'd you guys let him get by? That's part of it, Nate, is the Chiefs are claiming 32. I was surprised he made it all the way there.
Yes. I actually told Mike Simpson, my editor for The Athletic, I was like, don't expect the Chiefs to claim anybody because they're 32. It legitimately makes no sense. But that tells you how much the cornerback position has now become a commodity within the league. And the fact that, if you're a cornerback and you have, traits, as they say, you're going to get second and third and even fourth chances just because it's such a passing league. So if everybody feels good at corner, or they've already taken, cornerbacks that they maybe had a similar grade or a higher grade in previous draft classes, then this is how this happens. You want to know what my favorite part is, Josh? Because I saw it on Twitter, or X, formerly known as Twitter, whatever the hell this thing is now. It still controls my life to a large degree that I don't want it.
Really depressing. But look, we all got to figure out how to get people that news from X Field at Arrowhead Stadium. So
X Field. Welcome to the X.
That would actually be.
I can't wait for somebody to say that. But the best part was, we see the athletic scale, the athletic score. You just quote tweet with Steve Spagnuolo's face. It's amazing. And then as I saw this, you know what I thought of? Now, this is we're going to do this from time to time, but this is an old and goodie, a classic from Time Czar's era. Where did he go to school, Josh? Where did he go to school? Where did he go
Carolina.
to school?
Ow!
South Carolina. Hey, Josh, tell me, where's South Carolina on the Mason-Dixie line?
It's down below it. Don't let Trey McDuffie is the outlier. Do not let
the outlier.
Do not let a little Washington State kind of thing get in the way of the true vision here.
Yeah,
you're going south.
No,
yeah.
That
south of the line or Washington State. Don't even talk to them if you're not a corner who went north and not in a school that starts with Washington.
Yes, Lord. Yes,
yes, Lord. Washington Community College somewhere where there's some dude that's like, that's gonna be me.
Like, you gotta imagine that they watch corners from USC and they're like, "What are we doing?" I mean, we know who we are. Come on, corner. Like, what are we doing? Like, hey, I'm sure at some point Deion's gonna get a really good corner to go to Colorado because of obviously his legacy in football. Mm-hmm. Like, hey, I know how to.
And some other team's gonna get a really good player.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Like, hey, son, I'm Deion Sanders, perhaps the greatest quarterback in NFL history. Come down here. You know we're going to get you right. First, second round pick. You know who's not coming to scout you? The
reigning Super Bowl champion.
The Super Bowl champion. I mean, it was the first thing I saw on the waiver wire. I was like, hold on, where did he go to? Oh, yes. Already he's set up for success.
So good. And also kind of interesting in the Chiefs cornerback room where Najee Johnson looked like he was getting real work before his season ended in training camp. And there's been a lot, both from Dave Merritt and Steve Spagnuolo a couple of times where they've talked about that CB3 battle between Joshua Williams and Jalen Watson, and there being some inconsistencies there and, not making the same mistake twice, seeming like something that the corners might actually be failing to do by not making the same. They're making some similar mistakes over and over is what it sounds like. But I also have to acknowledge that might be what the coaches are saying up there at the podium because it's what they want those guys to be working on. So I don't know how dire that is, Seth. But having Rush added to the mix and having another corner that really fits that prototype. Also, as Brett Veach says yesterday, no short-term IR stints from any of the guys who made the 53, including L'Jarius Sneed, who we've seen for like 30 minutes more than we've seen Chris Jones this offseason, it feels like. What do you make of the cornerback room right now? And have you had a chance to look at anything from Darius Rush?
I have not looked at anything from Darius Rush. I'd be shocked.
Did you guys? I'm sorry I asked you a question and interrupted you, Seth. Welcome to Only Weird Games. I'm the same.
I saw it. I saw it. Don't worry. I saw it.
In the KC Sports Network Draft Guide, one of the most tremendous resources anywhere in the world for Chiefs fans. And I said that before we did the show here. Their pro comp for Darius Rush, their pro comparison was Bo Peep Keys.
Perfect. Say no more.
I mean, you guys.
And where did he go to school? Where did he go to school, guys?
Down south.
He went to Tulane. Tulane. That's deep below the Mason-Dixie line. Okay. Hey, we don't. Hey, DiCaprio Boodle, he the exception. Okay. Joshua Williams is the rule. All right. That's the way it works. I know people have mentioned Keith Taylor, which is really interesting. He's already been in the league with Carolina, of course. Yes, he went to Washington. Again, you got to have a couple outliers to throw him off the scent. Problem is, I'm telling you, I can smell the scent all the time. Okay, like go to the Senior Bowl, look at all the cornerbacks. Is he below the Mason-Dixie line? I know who they talking to. I know exactly who they talking to.
See, that saves me the trouble of even looking at the film. It's a beautiful thing. The only way he gets on the field this year is if there's a disaster of unbelievable proportions. Like, I mean,
probably, yes.
Now they've shown, though, they'll start to throw guys in. What I said to one person who asked me about the guy, and I don't know anything about him. Everyone knows I don't know much about college ball. I look at the guys as they come in. If there's one thing that I would bet strongest on when it comes to Brett Veach and Steve Spagnuolo, they have seemingly figured out the cornerback position. Like, any guy they grab is going to at least reach a certain level of competency, it seems like. Because, like, Josh Williams might not be ready to be like a full-time starter maybe, but he'd start on some teams in this league. Make no mistake. And here, opening day, probably going to be CB4 because Watson's going to – it's always Watson. It's always Watson. That man is inevitable. He is the reborn Sean Smith. Well, actually, Rashad Breeland without some of the other stuff.
I loved both of those guys here.
I did, yeah, when they were Chiefs.
Both of them did have some off-the-field issues that did pop up. Sean Smith also, I don't know if you remember any of his, I think, post-playing career. Had a sort of interest.
Daisies.
Yeah, it was a big uh-oh. Yeah. If I have my story straight, there's some interesting stuff in the Sean Smith one. I don't want to go all the way down that path because I'm not going to be able to get us back out, and I can't remember all the details.
That's fair.
Let me just see if this passes the sniff test for you guys, because what you just said, Seth, on the Chiefs seem to have their formula on corners, and then not just because of Washington, but because of the trade up and the first round pick. Trent McDuffie is the outlier in terms of what they've invested in a guy.
Yep.
Is it fair? I'm really workshopping this take out loud here, so it won't hurt my feelings if you say it's not fair. But is it fair that to see that the Chiefs have a plan where they can get their floor up high with a bunch of 6'2" dudes who are around 200 pounds who they can coach up for a training camp,
who are good tacklers?
Yep. Yes, that with their prototypes, they can get a good group. But the reason they went and got Trent McDuffie is because by not because of, but while not fitting the prototype for the Chiefs, they see him as having superstar potential, which I think we all kind of do at this point. Is that a fair kind of assessment of the Chiefs have 4, 5, or 6 dudes that have a lot in common, and then Trent McDuffie?
It is. It's also something that's often said sooner or later in the NFL, especially, you got to play man coverage. Sooner or later, it's no matter how good you scheme it up, no matter how smart you are, how good your pressure looks are, all of that. Sooner or later, you are going to need a few corners who can play man coverage. And so, when the Chiefs move on from Charvarius Ward, a guy who's a very competent coverage corner, they knew that, okay, we need to bring in another guy. We'll see what they do with L'Jarius Sneed. But I really think the biggest thing, they've been pretty honest about this, they didn't expect to be anywhere near Trent McDuffie. And when you watch his college film and then his rookie film, you can see why. They figured that dude was gone in the teens. But I do think eventually you need a guy that you can count on to play man coverage and say, okay, we're going to forget about you over there, depending on who you're up against, because unless you're prime Revis, there's some guys you still don't just forget about. But we're going to forget about you for the most part. And, okay, what are these other 10 dudes going to do? And you need to be able to do that. And with McDuffie, it just so happens that he's got a high-level skill set for a number of the same things that L'Jarius Sneed does well. He's just not quite as big.
That sounds great to me, which, Seth, only leaves one other thing for you to do right now, which is to tell us some great news and some great things about our friends over at DraftKings.
I'm so glad you asked, Josh. You know what? Football season starting, and college football fans, are you ready for week 1? DraftKings Sportsbook is hooking you up with a can't-miss offer to start the season strong. This week, new customers can bet $5. That's this many dollars on college football and score $200 in bonus bets instantly. I don't know about you. I failed math constantly, but 200 is a lot more than 5. Anything can happen in college football. Your team can go from unranked to dynasty mode in just a couple of years. Change comes fast, but one thing that's a lock is great offers from DraftKings Sportsbook. Something like, I don't know, you give $5 and you get 200. Life's more fun when you're in on the action. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use the code KCSN. That's the code KCSN. New customers score $200 in bonus bets instantly when they bet just $5. You got 5 over here. You got way more over here. On college football, you can bet on that only on DraftKings Sportsbook with the code KCSN. The crown is yours. If you've got a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. This is for people 21 and over, physically present in Kansas. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. Eligibility and deposit restrictions apply. Terms at sportsbook.draftkings.com/football terms on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort.
KCSN is going to make a proper broadcaster out of you by the end of this, Seth. We are cooking with gas.
That's a professional. Wow.
Did you feel that? That was that final infinity stone right there. Just, I can parent, I can husband, I can lawyer, I can pastor, and now I can do gambling spots.
You can DraftKings, baby.
No, I can't do all those at the same time, though.
No, that just seems impractical. Yeah. Well, look, I got to be honest, Seth. That was a shockingly good performance by you. I mean, would have been the biggest shock of my week if the Chiefs hadn't seen Shane Buechele go to Buffalo. I don't actually think that has to be the biggest takeaway of the practice squad coming together, guys. But a few names that I will highlight here that we thought would probably go this way. But I mentioned Lacey, it picked up on waivers, so everybody else was eligible to return to the Chiefs practice squad. That is Austin Ryder, Deion Bush, Danny Shelton, both running backs, Deneric Prince and LaMichael Pirine, Matt Bushman, Cornell Powell, Reese Taylor, Echo Boydo, Cole Christensen, Chris Oladukin. Did I get it right? I get his name wrong every time.
Oladukin.
Finally got it.
Chris Oladukin.
And Montreal, Washington, Garrett Prince, Keith Taylor, Truman Jones, Darian Kennard was a late add. I don't know if he was weighing his options or if the Chiefs were weighing their options. Then Chris Williams and Matt Dickerson, who the Chiefs waived in order to make room for Rush.
Yes.
I have my order of operations all correct. So that's the full list of everybody that I've got at least written down here. I think I'm correct on the list there. What jumped out to you guys? We talked a little bit on Tuesday about Darian Kennard being, a recent draft pick who was cut. Had some expectations about those veterans. Echo Boydo, the K-Stater, makes the squad. Truman Jones, really out of Harvard, great news for me personally. I've been excited about this Truman Jones project for a minute. No Buechele, which I mentioned. No Josh Paindo. Nico Arminio on IR, and we'll see if they have a settlement or anything, or he'll just be on the IR.
Right.
What was surprising or interesting there to you guys? Any names pop out to you that were on the list or ones who weren't?
Yeah, the running back competition continues between P. Ryan and Prince, you would have to say right now that, P. Ryan has the advantage. If the Chiefs do need a fourth running back on the active roster for a game day or two, as I've said or written before, like I think the expectation was Danny Shelton was going to come back. So that was the case. I think Matt Bushman may have had a couple options. It'll be fascinating next week to sort of talk to him in the locker room and get his perspective because, he's caught touchdowns in preseason games for consecutive years now. The tight end position is in a little bit of a flux, especially from the bottom half based on some of the things that I've heard. So it's good that they got him back. So they still have legitimately 4 tight ends, even though Bushman has yet to play in an NFL regular season game. So that sort of jumped out to me. I think Darian Kennard has a chance to play in this league. The easiest way to do that is to be coached by Andy Heck in an Andy Reid offense with continuity within the system, especially as you go from tackle to guard. He's a much better guard than he was a tackle a year ago. And so the Chiefs, as we said last episode, took a gamble and they succeed by obviously retaining that asset for right now. I don't know what's going to happen with Joshua Kando. Has anybody heard anything? This might be news. This might be news to me as well. I don't know what's going to happen to him. But he didn't show the progress that we thought maybe would be possible this preseason round. And then lastly, with Shane Buechele, it's one of those things where the guy's been in the system 3 years. And so I think there's a bit of, he had been in the Chiefs system for 3 years. So if he felt like the coaching staff didn't trust the progress he had made, or he didn't make as much of progress as they felt was necessary to keep that third quarterback, especially when that player can be active and elevated without necessarily having to be a part of the inactive list. Mm-hmm. I think there was just a level of disappointment from Shane Buechele that I understand why Veach said basically there was no chance of him returning to the practice squad. So it's a case where Patrick Mahomes, probably felt like, hey, we could have, 3 quarterbacks. I think the Chris Jones situation kind of has a little bit of a factor in this play. Because you need as many defensive linemen, whether or not Chris is going to be there or not week 1. So the Matt Dickerson situation is part of this. They obviously traded for Neil Farrell. So that may have played a role in it. And because it's early enough in the season, Andy Reid probably made the decision that having 2 quarterbacks, again, as we talked about before, having a veteran in Blaine Gabbert that you can trust, who knows himself, who has played NFL games before. If Patrick Mahomes is healthy and Blaine Gabbert's healthy and he's adjusting to the system, in a competent level, do we truly need the third guy on opening night, even though he could technically be in uniform? So when you put all those factors together, that is mostly what led to the decision. And the Bills have made the decision, it seems, to potentially have 3 quarterbacks be available on opening day for their roster, and Shane Buechele appears to be that third option.
And I'm
gonna make one correction. I don't think I mentioned Jason Godric, also known as. So the Chiefs actually have a 17-player practice squad because he's the Nigerian who did not go to an American college and is a part of the International Pathway Program. So he was on. The Chiefs had a 91-man roster before Cutdowns began, and now they have a 17-man practice squad as Godric is a part of that. It's kind of a cool little detail.
Yeah.
I think I glossed over. Seth, what you got?
I was just going to just to cut something off at the pass with Shane Buechele. He's been in Andy Reid's system for 3 years. Yes.
Gonna tell them all the secrets.
If that sort of thing made a difference,
I'm just telling you the facts, Seth.
You would have seen
it
numerous times over the course of Andy Reid's very lengthy career. It's not everything that the Chiefs do and put on film is broken down and analyzed in unbelievable detail by the Bills and everyone else. Okay? Shane Buechele can go in there and maybe tell them a little bit about like their terminology and stuff, but that doesn't help. And Andy Reid's systems, they're not necessarily like a huge secret. It's the way that he disguises them and unfolds them, which changes week to week. And the Chiefs have done some installs, sure, but Shane Buechele is not Andy Reid. And unless Andy Reid signs with the Bills, it's not going to be a thing. I promise you guys. You might see a thing or two, but like by the time they play the Bills, when do they play the Bills?
Week something.
It's week something for sure. That's what, yeah,
it ain't the first 6. By the way, I treat these things much like coaches. If it ain't in the first 6, like that thing is get back to me. I'll look it up now.
Later.
It's gone. Yeah. I just wanted to reassure people that, and you know what? I just saw a really good comment from my buddy Glenn here. Andy has not only lost players, he's lost coaches and dominates them regularly. And he does. That is, Andy is just, he is overall, and I've got a lot of respect for a lot of the assistants he's lost over the years, but Andy is the system. It's Patrick Mahomes is the system. What we've learned about, like, you know, Bill Belichick and Tom Brady, they were the system. You had the greatest defensive mind of all time with the greatest, to that point, quarterback of all time. That was the system. It really had very little to do with anything else they did. That just blind luck.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. They are set to play the Bills on week 14 in Arrowhead Stadium. All right.
Yeah, that's a long time.
Shane, we saw what you did. We appreciate you. I mean, you know, you got some skills, dog. No doubt. You got an arm. You know, you can sling that thing. You know. Now, obviously,
watch that robber, man.
As Sean McDermott, I've been around Andy Reid from time to time. I used to be his assistant, you know, way back when in Philly, and you know, we brought you here for a reason, son. We need a third quarterback. And you know, we had some of the guys. You know, we had Glenn Dorsey look at the tape. You remember watching Glenn Dorsey at Miami? He was something. That dude had all the dudes. Anyway, I'm only
Nate,
yes.
Nate.
Did I get his name wrong?
You just made him Glenn Dorsey. You just made Glenn Dorsey, and now we all get to remember Glenn Dorsey for a little bit. That's the best.
Yeah, all right.
Man, that dude was stout against the run.
He was stout. I loved Glenn Dorsey, and I love Tyson Jackson a little less, and then it just sort of declined a little bit.
Look, Ken's played the position, all right? He sees the talent. By the way, go look at that early 2000s Miami team if you get some time on YouTube. My God. But also
that was before they paid players, though.
That's right. Way before. Way before things got.
No one was getting the bag on that team.
Clinton Portis. I mean, there's so many guys. Santana Moss. They had Kellen Winslow. They had a squad. Did you ever heard of G-Reg? Did you ever heard of G-Reg with the third leg? That's a different day and era. Anyway, look, son, I'm only gonna ask you once. Take any screenshots? Did you photocopy anything? Did you happen to?
Yeah.
Did you happen to bring a
phone recorder on?
Did you happen to thumbnail? You got the thumb drive?
Did you download the latest updates before they brought you in? Oh, okay. Well, you know, yeah. Bob will tell you where your locker is, but if you can send us that thing, if you can send me that thing, that'll really help out. What was that? We play them in week 14 and it might not matter. Yeah, I'm still gonna need to get some eyes on it, you know.
Take those.
Yeah, we'll take those. So look, learn from Josh. You know, make the best of it. All these quarterbacks know one another, by the way, guys. It's not a secret. So
yeah,
it's just fun to be like, hey, so what you guys do up there at St. Joseph this year? Anything different? Anything Pat's trying to do differently? You know, I have to ask once, you know, from one gentleman to another.
Shane, I don't want to get you in trouble, but you know, when you guys go inside for practice, we don't know what's going on in there. So just make noises in response to me saying some things. I would love it if the Bills decided to just take our bit and try to use it to a competitive advantage. I think that would be the most hilarious way this could possibly go.
Just the idea of like, look, son, I have to ask. You know it. I know it. Just anything.
Yeah.
Anything you can tell us will be worth your contract and then some. So, you know, if you're around in week 14, just come by my office.
We got to wrap this up a little bit so Nate can end and begin another beautiful year of marriage. So I want to try to respect our timeline, and also I don't know if you guys texted me back. We're like as live as you.
Oh
get
boy,
right now.
here we go.
Yeah. Well, here's what I was thinking. I was thinking that this upcoming week we do Tuesday, Friday, because we'll have the same space between. We wouldn't do a show on Monday, but it's a holiday, so I don't know.
Yeah, that's a holiday. Yep.
We could do a little Tuesday, a little Friday. I don't know if I vibe check. We feeling like that's probably right.
Yeah, if you're in the comments, let us know. But yeah, that sounds doable to me. Given Thursday is the legitimate start of the season, yes.
And then that way also we're doing, because we usually we'll do our preview episodes on a Thursday going into Friday to have some time to marinate on all that. Tuesday, though, we're just going to be 2 days out from a football game, from the kickoff of the 2023 NFL season. That makes me very happy. But also that means I don't know when Seth's going to get to start his fight with John Elway, and I want to allow time for that.
Okay, let's end on this. Let's give 10 minutes. I'm going to give you guys 10 minutes. Yes, it's Holly's and I's wedding anniversary. No, I want 10 minutes of just watching my two of my favorite friends just torch a man who's in the Hall of Fame, played in 5 Super Bowls, I believe, and just has memorable moment after memorable moment. But yes, analytically, statistically, eye test.
I remember a lot of Nathan Peterman's moments too. I mean, I'm just like moments.
Oh my God.
This isn't mine. Here's Seth. The entire floor will be yours. I'm gonna push back.
But Seth, he went down the field against the Cleveland Browns when I can't name anybody else on the field. By the way, if you watch that game on NFL, they played that game on NFL Network like a few months ago. I mean, I do this from time to time. I'm like, what sport is this? This is barbaric. And this is and this is 1980s football. Like, oh my God, he just clotheslined the quarterback and everybody cheered. What? And what is this? What is this sport? This looks so
They're
bad.
like stomping on a dude, and the refs like pumping his fist. Like, you remember? I mean, look,
50-yard penalty on the guy who got stomped on for being a little baby.
Yeah, I will say the rule book. Yeah, I'll give John Elway credit on this. He got the living what kicked out of him in that 100%. Game, and then somehow led them down the field for a game-winning touchdown. That to me is probably the height of his, like, that is the apex moment of his career. Because guys, his offensive line stunk in that game, and he was scrambling and trying to make chicken out of what. And look, it helps when you play the Cleveland Browns in the AFC Championship game because you're just automatically going to advance. But he did lead them down I mean, they call it the drive for a reason. It's a drive, but also
Chad Henne had a drive.
True. So true. God, that was excellent. So that's my best argument in favor of John Elway, other than my own eyes. And Seth, go ahead. Kill this man. Do him what we've done to Troy Aikman already.
I am not the expert in this field, okay? I need to give credit to my good friend, fellow lawyer, It's Always Sunny in Chiefs Kingdom podcaster, Austin, known as Bird Law Expert there on Twitter. You got to give him a follow. He created an incredible thread on John Elway stats. And one of these days, we should just have him on to talk about this in more detail. And what he did is he did it the way you would expect a lawyer to. He made the argument, look, he starts off, John Elway was not a great quarterback. Here's proof. And what he starts doing is just going through argument after argument. So he talks about the statistics and stuff, and everyone's already accepted, well, John Elway's statistics are not good. You look at it. And what's the automatic answer that anyone's going to give to that, Josh?
To his stats not being good?
Yeah, to his stats being bad.
Well, somebody told me at one point you got to go beyond the box score.
Yeah.
Eye test.
Absolutely. Now, the other thing that person probably told you is over a 20-year sample size, that helps. But the other thing is you got to adjust for era, right? You got to adjust for era. It was a different game back then. These are just numbers, okay? So, first of all, let's start with the basic thing. Patrick Mahomes has thrown for, hold on, let's pull this up here, a total of, in the regular season, 192 touchdowns. John Elway threw for a total of 300 touchdowns. That was over the course of approximately 20 billion years. Whereas Mahomes has been playing for 6 years. I'm sorry, he's been playing for 5. And he's 2/3 of the way there. I don't know why 2/3 rings a bell to me.
66%, some could say.
Some might even say he's already got the same number as touchdowns, and he didn't have Terrell Davis carry him to both of them.
Wow.
But, so here's what I'm going to say. These are just numbers, okay? These are just numbers.
Also, Terrell Davis is in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
On the
unbelievable. I watched that.
You say he belongs there because he's really only in the Hall of Fame for 3 seasons.
4 elite seasons is enough to get into the Hall of Fame, and I will fight you to the death over this, Taylor, because we're going to talk about
Jamal Charles is better at his peak than Terrell Davis was. Right? I mean, this isn't.
Look, I wasn't a reporter. Man, what
are we doing now?
I wasn't a reporter. I wasn't a part of the Hall of Fame voting committee. I wasn't. All I'm saying is, I guess Denver was on. Also, this reminds me of the 90s that Denver was on national television all the time, back when national television mattered, back when we were going to the bars to see non-direct TV games or whatever. But no, Terrell Davis is only in the Hall of Fame for 3 legitimate seasons. It's kind of it's something. So if he's in the Hall of Fame, then of course John Elway's in the Hall of Fame. But Seth, continue.
Hang on. Terrell Davis at one point in his career was one of the best 2 running backs in the league, or the best. John Elway was never once during the course of his entire career the best quarterback in the league. So I'm just going to talk about numbers because that's just an opinion, right? So here's a couple things. First of all, again, John Elway, total career passing touchdowns, 300. Patrick Mahomes, 192. Patrick Mahomes, although this is a knock against him, he has thrown, 49 interceptions. John Elway threw 226. His touchdown interception ratio is not even 2-1. It's not even close. So, all right. But hey, Seth, it was a different era.
You can't have a fourth quarter comeback if you don't throw the ball to the other team a few times. Come on, man.
You're winning the whole time. So this is, again, all credit to Austin here. 19 different quarterbacks. These are just numbers. Started 100-plus games between 1983 and 1998, John Elway's career. Here's where Elway ranks. Completion percentage, 16th of 19. Touchdown percentage, 13th of 19. Interception percentage, 10th of 19. Quarterback rating, 14th of 19. Yards per attempt, 10th. Adjusted net yards per attempt, one of the better stats at comprehensive. 11th out of 19 dudes that started 100-plus games in that time frame. He was in the bottom half. But no. Come on. That's not fair. He didn't have any help. There wasn't anyone that was ever helping him out. If you look at some things that happened,
it was just him and Shannon Sharp and like dudes, man. Come on,
let me just tell you something. John Elway never led the league in passing touchdowns. Never led the league in quarterback rating. Never led the league in yards per attempt. These are just numbers. These are just facts. But hey, Seth, these numbers are no good. What about something like a big deal, like, I don't know, DYAR, yards above replacement, right? That's a big deal. Did you know that John Elway was top 8 in DYAR in 10 different seasons? That's pretty impressive. Except, is it? Top 8 in 10 different seasons when you play that long. He was also in the bottom half of the league in 5 full seasons. He was in the bottom 5 twice and was literally the worst quarterback in the league 1 year in DYAR. He was number 1 once. He was in the top 5 in his entire career 4 times. Top 5 4 times. And that's not a guy that you talk about as an all-time great. And these are adjusted metrics for his time period. So the only thing you're allowed to say is, he had complete total garbage teams around him. Maybe, I guess. But then what you're implicitly admitting then is that he wasn't good enough to raise up those teams. But Seth, he won a lot of games. You know what? His win percentage at an all-time is really, really good. But you know what's kind of interesting about that? Where's my piece of paper that I was looking at earlier? What's kind of interesting when you look at this,
Your Honor,
John Elway's career prior to Mike Shanahan and Terrell Davis.
Here we go.
Regular season record was 94-64. His playoff record was 7-6. Both of those are solid. Solid. I mean, it's like on the same level as, like, I don't know, Eli Manning. Now, Eli Manning is a 500 guy.
Oh,
Yes!
hey, Eli's getting in the hall, baby.
You can look at this. Best quarterback win percentages in history.
Where's Jimmy Garoppolo?
You can look at these things on StatMuse. He wouldn't have even been the top 20 or the top 30 if you're talking about guys that actually started 100 games plus. However, enter Mike Shanahan and that zone blocking system that nobody could stop.
With some naked bootlegs sprinkled in.
Who ran it better than anyone. Then his regular season record becomes 47-17. His playoff record 7-1.
Pretty good.
John Elway,
pretty good.
Good quarterback.
Good
quarterback. All-time great. Not by the numbers. Not by winning without Terrell Davis. It just, there's nothing in there. He gets talked about. Now, I'm not saying John Elway's a bad quarterback. He's certainly not. But if you're talking about guys that get talked about on the Mount Rushmore.
That's exactly what it is to me. He's on Mount Rushmore talk all the time.
Talked about like that all the time. And the reality is a guy like Dan Marino was lapping him from day one. And the reality is he just didn't have remotely the same production as any of the other guys relative to their peers that other elite quarterbacks have. If you talk about Manning, Brady, or even Mahomes, and once you get to a sample size of 20 years, I think that matters.
It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. Also, what happens is it 97 or 98? I can't remember off the top of my head. But if Tony Gonzalez catches the touchdown in the end zone and they review it, and by all eye tests necessary, his feet are in the end zone. It's one of the most because that was early in Tony Gonzalez's career. It's one of the most sliding doors moments in NFL 90s history. Is if Tony Gonzalez is deemed in the end zone and it's a touchdown, you know what it does? It puts John Elway in kind of another legacy moment of down by whatever in the fourth quarter instead of Elvis Gerback down in the fourth quarter.
No, you're so right. There was this sliding doors moment.
Yeah.
I have one more thing that I want people to understand here. In 1981, under Dan Reeves, a 38-year-old Craig Morton, again, this is Austin, he had a 59.8 completion percentage, 3,200 yards, 21 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. The 16-game averages that Elway had under Dan Reeves are all worse than what 38-year-old Craig Morton did with Dan Reeves in 1981. But yet, it's Dan Reeves' fault. So John Elway couldn't make Dan Reeves' system better than 38-year-old Craig Morton. Now, is this true? I don't know, but it's interesting. They're just numbers. These are just numbers. Steve Watson caught 60 passes for 1,200 yards and 13 touchdowns in 1981.
But Seth,
the next 6 years with Elway, he never went for more than 1,170. It's just interesting.
But
These are just numbers.
He lifted his 36-year-old body off the ground and got helicoptered. I mean, come on.
True. Gamer, good quarterback, incredible physical talent, doesn't even belong in the top 10, let alone the Mount Rushmore.
And by the way, got to play the Dirty Bird Falcons for the legacy 2-time Super Bowl winning quarterback game. I mean, what timing is everything, ladies and gentlemen. They beat an all-great Packers team in 97 that was trying to go back-to-back, of course. But in 98, I mean, we all know who the best team was that year. We all do. We all know who the best team was that year. They just didn't play in the Super Bowl. It's so tragic. It's so tragic.
Man, we don't even talk about that. I have so many people I love who they can't even talk about 1998 because that was a full of hurt that the sports world has hardly seen. And as a Chiefs fan, I've experienced some really bad moments. I've never experienced something like what happened to the Vikings in 98. It doesn't get worse. Gary Anderson hadn't missed a field goal all year.
All season. Yep.
How does it happen? And they roll that Broncos team. Anyway, none of this is to say that Dan Marino, that John Elway is not a good quarterback. He's just not out on the Mount Rushmore. Doesn't belong in any top 10 conversations. Not remotely. Great highlights, though. Good quarterback.
Yeah. The crazy thing is, I think Peyton Manning played a harder opponent in the Chicago Bears with Rex Grossman than John Elway played against the Falcons, who Dirty Bird their way into the Super Bowl. God, I love the Dirty Bird back in the day. I was doing it every day on the playground, But yeah, from a legacy standpoint, if you're a 2-time Super Bowl winning quarterback, you are automatically into the Hall of Fame.
Yep.
To your point, though, Seth, you should have been in the room when they were voting on this, because you would have been perhaps the one or very in the minority of people who were like, are we sure he's good? Are we sure? But then they're going to say the drive and 5 Super Bowls and the helicopter and, Denver was cool. And they were on a lot of national television games. And I think that made a big difference. He played in a lot of primetime national TV games for a quote unquote West Coast team in our country in the 90s. I'm sorry, Seth, but you made a persuasive argument. And
did you know that John Elway was never named to the first team All-Pro his entire career?
I am shocked by that, actually.
No, actually, I don't think that is shocking, because he played in the same era as Joe Montana, and I'm sorry.
A legitimate Mount Rushmore quarterback.
And I'm sorry. Yeah.
If you're a Mount Rushmore quarterback, you win that one time at least. Brady had to play with
people get bored, dude. People get bored. No. They like to give the MVP to somebody who's not Jordan if they can come up with a reason to.
I mean, by the way, an argument can be made that Randall Cunningham's peak season is better than any John Elway peak season.
I'm here for that conversation.
We're all on the same page again. This is great. We're friends again.
Yeah. So, they went from Montana to Steve Young, guys. Yeah. It doesn't surprise me that John Elway was never first team All-Pro, because Dan Marino exists, Steve Young exists, Warren Moon exists.
Elite quarterbacks.
Jim Kelly exists, and Joe Montana exists.
I think that all lines up, and like Seth said, right now it's his pinned tweet at Real Bird Lawyer on Twitter, or formerly whatever on GEHA. At Real Bird Lawyer, if you want, it's his pinned tweet that you can read along all of the work that Austin did there. But I think we can all agree that ultimately it's not a matter of is this a good quarterback or a bad quarterback. It's a matter of, we can all see that John Elway and Eli Manning and Troy Aikman all kind of deserve to be in that same bucket of guys who won rings on the back of other people's work. I mean, there's nothing to be ashamed of there. Game managers.
It's just to name some people.
Just like 3 random ones.
These are just names. And of the 3,
do not get me wrong. I love Eli Manning.
Who's going in the Hall of Fame? Come on, guys. He's already there. He's already there.
No, Eli's great. And
I beat an undefeated team with a helmet catch. I'm in the Hall of Fame.
I will say this: John Elway, better than Troy Aikman.
Yeah. I mean, come on, Seth.
I'm just saying.
Picking good quarterbacks.
Nate saved my career.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, that will conclude episode 2 of Only Weird Games, where we're all of a sudden dunking on Troy Aikman again. How did we do this?
I don't know.
How?
Time is a flat circle.
How? All right.